opinions expressed in this show belong to the person expressing them. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of Rancher or any other entity.
Hey everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Data. We were just talking about MC Hammer in the chat. Um, my name is Bob Vila, and you can't tell, but there's like a whole construction project happening outside my house. There's dudes over here that have a chop saw. There's dudes over here that have a crowbar and hammers as they're replacing certain deck boards that got messed up in the original one before they paint the whole thing. It's like madness. But I'm using a microphone app called Crisp. That's Crisp with a K, KRISP.ai if you want to check it out. It is amazing. So you probably won't hear any of the noise, and that's great. So check out Crisp. Anyway, my name is actually Adrian Goins, and I'm fired up to be here with you today. The purpose of this show is to share with you news and interesting content related to Kubernetes and Cloud Native and to build a community of people who are interested in using technology to live a better life. If you're watching live, consider following or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And if you're watching a replay of this in the future, in addition to subscribing, give the video a thumbs up so that YouTube shares it with other people. There's a free community site and a Discord server. Links to that are in the video description or annoyingly scrolling across the bottom of the screen. um, Oh, it's going to be one of those days. Live chat happens in Discord with a bot that relays between all of the things, and so come hang out with us. There's madness going on in there every morning, and as you'll see, well, that's where the real action happens. And then, of course, the conversation continues throughout the day in the chat. So let's very quickly say good morning to a bunch of people that I've seen roll in. Good morning, Bala, Peter Keach, Ian, Captain Justin, Mac. Always nice to see you, Mac. Restreambot, good to see you too, doing your job. Danny joining us from YouTube. Howdy. Stop. Hammer time. That was one of the gifts. That was a really good music video. I really liked that. Like, despite it being all 80s and like we can make fun of it now, like that dude was just an amazing dancer. James, good morning. All right, so we have lots of people joining us today. Hi, Frank, Old Man with a Hat, Clint, Ariel, those of you who roll in about 10 minutes before the show starts. If I missed anybody, oh, I think I saw Nuno there. No, that was from yesterday. Nuno's not here today. We miss you, Nuno. All right, so as usual, there's a mad mess of stuff that we gotta do today, and I'm gonna kick one of those items off right now. The hot seat. Ellibot's running a 5-minute giveaway in the live chat channel on Discord. I will call that winner over Discord and bring them onto the show with me to do the A/B test right here, right now, today. It's called the hot seat because if you win, you have no idea what Trufflebot's going to show us. I barely have an idea. I'll present the content to you and everyone else, and then we'll just spend a few seconds talking about it before we move to the next item. So if you're interested in joining me, well, just, click the little ta-da icon, and in a few minutes... Oh, I have to actually... This is not connected to my computer. That's going to make it really... It's gonna make it really hard to call anyone here in a second. I was using it with my phone yesterday. All right, let's see if I get a little noise. No? No? All right, well, hang on a second. Come on, Mac, do what you're supposed to do. Not you, Mac. Mac the computer, Mac. I didn't test this part before the show. We'll come back to that. Let's real quick just talk about some news items while we're waiting for that giveaway to run, and then I'll go back to y'all can sit there and watch me figure out why my headphones don't work. Yesterday we kicked off the new weekly challenge. This time it's on network policy, and there's a post already in the community site where some of us are starting to talk about that. If you already have experience with network policy, or if you're just starting out, chime in here. And let's all try and get some network policy action going between now and next week. Oh my gosh, I just inhaled a piece of dust. Okay, I think I'm gonna be okay. I don't know what the challenge is going to be for next week. It's going to be the last week of the show for December and for the year. So I'll try to figure out something related to policy, something maybe Falco. If any of you have any ideas, toss them my way. Let's take a moment now and see if my headphones want to behave themselves yet. And if not, I'm going to have WifeBot get me the spare set from the other room. Oh, it claims it's connected. Hmm. Hmm. We'll find out. Oh, now it disconnected. Gosh. WifeBot, can you get me the spares, please? Okay. Let's see. How much time do we got left on that giveaway? I think I'm probably gonna have to run through the first item. What do we got? We got. Has nobody joined the giveaway? Nobody wants to join me today for the hot seat? That makes me very sad. Really? There's nobody's joined.
I don't think that's true.
It still says one right there.
All right.
Huh. Okay. That makes me very sad. Let's see if these headphones work. Shipwreck wants to join. Oh, well, that's fine. I mean, if nobody joins, I'll just do the whole thing myself, because that's what I do every single day, and that's cool. Oh, I got a beepy noise. Okay, good. Well, fine. Let's just get started then, and WifeBot will holler at me if anybody actually gets to come on the show. So the collector bots have gathered candidates for the show, and Trufflebot has scored them from 1 to 5 coffees, corresponding to a 75 to 100% probability of being interesting content. He'll load them up in the A/B test channel on Discord. I'll talk about them, and if anybody wants to join me, we can talk about them together. Anybody who's watching live can vote and rate the items on Discord, and then the total votes are used to rate the show itself and also to refine the machine learning model that actually scores the content for the show. I don't think we have very many people here today. Whoops, wrong command. Not A/B test, that's the segment. Okay, so of course y'all know that I'm gonna have to talk about that. I made a total fool of myself yesterday because this whole conversation was going on, and for some reason, even though it says CentOS, my brain read CoreOS, and yeah, so I was responding to tweets about CentOS being like, oh, go check out Flatcar Linux. Looking like a dork. I deleted those. Because that's the joy of Twitter. You can pretend that it never happened, but then you tell the internet. So, yeah, the entire internet. In fact, if you could play back like all of my live streams going back to about September of last year or whenever VMware did their Tanzu mission control announcement and like put it with like a race car announcer, it'd be like, oh yeah, and they're out the gate, and they're going in, VMware's in the lead, and VMware and the Red Hat's in the lead, and now we've got Mirantis coming up from the rear. And so it's been VMware in the lead of the companies that I talk the most crap about. And I even went so far as a few weeks ago to say that VMware makes Red Hat look good. Well, not to be left in the dust, Red Hat has decided to say, you know what, to everybody who uses CentOS. Basically, they've said that CentOS is going to be nuked in 2021, not actually in 2029. It's being migrated to a thing called CentOS Stream, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, if you're using it, you can just go get stuffed, or you can buy RHEL. There you go. Some things have come out of this. First of all, Max shared today that somebody created this lovely website that says this is how long you have until CentOS dies, and yeah, it basically talks smack about how Red Hat, now being IBM, is going to monetize everything that they possibly can. I really thought that IBM was doing a good job of leaving Red Hat alone and just letting them continue to do their thing, but they got to get their $34 billion back, and you know where they're going to get it? You. So yeah, as far as content, I mean, it's hard to rate this. Like, is it good content? It's news, and yeah, it's unfortunate. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I read this yesterday as well, and I said, oh, the creator of CoreOS has forked it. The original CentOS creator has created a fork. I don't know if he did this yesterday or if this already existed and now it's just going to get some traction. But That looks like an angry dude. That looks like a dude who's mad that RHEL just did this or Red Hat just did this. So now there's Rocky Linux, which is a new fork of RHEL and probably will be the same as CentOS until Red Hat sues them into oblivion. It's up to you to decide if this is where you want to go, or if you want to say maybe it's about time to go to Ubuntu or OpenSUSE or something. I don't know, something else out there that is not likely to do what they just did. So if you want to check this out, I'd be interested to hear what people think about this and if it's actually useful. Did anybody win? Nobody won. Okay, that's cool. No hot seat today. Just content. So next up we have, that's nice because I actually get to hear out of both ears for the rest of the show instead of just one ear. Oh, I didn't vote on, really? I didn't vote on that? Oh, it's because I'm in the wrong channel. Ah, over here. Whose show is this? Oh yeah, Kubernetes 1.20, the raddest release, bro. It's like totally tubular and it's been released and stuff. It's got some cool stuff in it. We've had some stuff over the last few days talking about like what's coming, but now it's actually here. So it's at least worth talking about that. Some important things. kubectl debug graduates to beta. This does not include the ephemeral containers that we talked about a while back that Jerome Pettazzoni had the really cool intro and blog about how to use. Those are still alpha, but it's progressing. kubectl debug does give you new options for figuring out what the heck just happened to my cluster. API priority and fairness is now in beta. That's a cool feature that basically says prioritize requests from the Kubernetes subsystems themselves over other requests to the API, so that if somebody's pounding the good Lord, please stop out of the API server, it doesn't cause all of Kubernetes to crash. PID limiting for stability. Hey, let's not let our workloads exhaust the PIDs on the host. That sounds like a good idea. Okay. Graceful node shutdown is now in alpha. Apparently, if you shut down a node before cordoning and draining it, it would just shoot the pods in the head, and bad stuff would happen. So now it'll give them some time before it comes back and shoots them in the head. Of course, Docker shim, we're not going to talk about that. Exec probe timeout handling, that might be relevant. Apparently, exec probes were taking forever. If they didn't return, they would just take forever. And then a bunch of other stuff. So this is out. My recommendation is, of course, deploy this and test it in your test environments, but I never, ever, 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 ever deploy things the day that they come out, or the month that they come out. All you people running Big Sur, woo! You're brave. You're way braver than I am. Next up. Oh, yeah, okay, so continuing down the path of new things that have been released. Docker 20.10. Cool. Whoops. It works on CentOS 8. Poor Docker. Docker rolls into the party and they've got like the present, like the big teddy bear and like the bottle of champagne, and they're like, "Where's everybody at?" Because it's like 4 a.m. Like gosh. Anyway, it works on CentOS 8 for the next 368 days. It works on Fedora. Who cares? But rootless mode has reached GA, so this is pretty cool. There's been a lot of work going into making Docker run without root privileges, and so yeah, cool. Part of that is supporting OverlayFS via Fuse in user space, so that doesn't need root privileges. And so yeah, they bundled the rootless binaries. I'm like, what is that? Supports dev installation? No, they bundled the rootless binary component into the into the installation, so it can just happen. And then there's some other cool stuff that I didn't even realize that there's modifications to the Docker file that I've been rolling around out there. So, for example, you can specify a mount type of like cache or SSH or what's this other one? Secret, and it behaves differently for how certain things are done. So that's pretty cool, particularly the cache one, for example, preserving package manager cache files so that you don't have to like do apt-get update and then delete it all at the end. That's a phenomenal waste of time. Oh my God, Swarm? Where's Nuno? Everyone thinks Swarm is dead, but it is still alive. It's alive! Great, if you're using it, you're probably happy. What else? I have nothing to say about Swarm. I'm sorry. I've never used it. Ever. Ever. Even when I was doing Docker before there was Kubernetes, I still didn't use Swarm. Other notable changes. Cool stuff. You can now build from a private Git repo. Huzzah. Build X out of experimental. You can copy with chmod. That's interesting. There's been a long-running GitLab issue that I've been participating in, like long-running, like years, about how if content is copied over from, let's actually fix it. When building containers using GitLab CI, when it copies things over, it copies them mode 777. So, whoops. So things are being copied over with world writable privileges, and it was either breaking things that won't run if it's 777 or 666, basically if it's world writable, or people were having to do all these weird hacks to try and get the chmod in as part of the run init, blah 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 blah. This might fix it because GitLab, there's lots of reasons why they can't fix it. They agree that it should be fixed, but the GitLab runner behaves a certain way, and setting file permissions and stuff, it's apparently too difficult. So that's pretty cool. Although all of the GitLab builds work with Docker and Docker, and that's going to go away too. Anyway, Docker 20.10. What else do I have scanned here or highlighted here? Scanning local images from Sneak. Nice. I didn't realize that that's limited to 10 times a month unless you're paying. Who'da thunk? Something just told me my headphones weren't plugged in. Thanks, computer. But if you're looking for an alternative to the embedded Sneak functionality, well, they recommend that you check out Trivy. Cool. So let's move on. There's a book that's been released about Knative. And I don't know if this is the first chapter or what, but it appears that they took an entire chapter about Knative serving and they put it up as a Medium article. So if you're not familiar with Knative and you want to just kind of get started and you want to, run through some stuff before you decide to buy the book, you can do this. There's also a 40% discount coupon code thingy if you want to go buy the book. Otherwise, it's a wonderful article on going and getting up and running with Knative, showing how you can use serverless and do revisions. And if you've ever done anything with Rio, I think Rio's actually built on Knative, or at least it was the last time that I played with it. So a lot of this is very familiar with revisions, being able to roll forward and roll back and do canary deployments and move content and so on and so forth. So it has you first deploy a Hello World Go app with an environment variable, change the environment variable to show that that works. And then they have a really funny thing down here. Like, I hope this is from the book because it shows that the author is funny, that he doesn't take himself too seriously. So they have you change from a Go program to a Rust program because the Go programming language, known as Urfishiha to his enemies, is the old hotness. The new hotness is Rust. We all know that's true, right? Everybody who's writing Go is like, Go, that's so like 2018. It's like, Rust is what we do now. Anyway, he has you switch it out to Rust because, gosh, wow. And then continues on with, traffic moving and so on. I'm only halfway down the page now. It just goes crazy. So really good introduction into getting started with Knative with a 40% discount off the book. A few days ago, Mladen was asking in Discord if the CKA was relevant, useful, or worth pursuing. He said he was thinking about it, but wasn't sure. And I chimed in about my feeling about certifications that ultimately ended up with, yes, it's worth doing. Matt chimed in and also said that him getting the CKA actually helped him get his job at Rancher. And I thought it was interesting that the bots picked this up which is just a little case study about somebody who graduated from university in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic and wasn't sure what his job prospects were, but he went and got CKA and CKAD and immediately was getting calls from recruiters and was able to get a job as a DevOps engineer at a SaaS company that uses cloud DevOps and Kubernetes. He was the only either the only one with Kubernetes experience or he was the only one with certification. So even though other people were using Kubernetes, he became a coach and a mentor to other people in the department. They got a little video about him. They probably should have picked a better thumbnail. But yeah, Mladen, if you're watching, go get your CKA. Do we even have anybody still watching the show? Nobody voted on that. Am I talking to myself? Hello? Hello? That's fine. It's Thursday. We all got jobs to do. Yesterday or the day before, I talked about the. Hey, Mac. I'm just going to talk to Mac. It's okay. I'm actually. Oh my God, a live webinar pop up. Let's get rid of that. I don't want to go to that. I know that there's others of you out there. I'm kidding. It's just the chat's really quiet today. Way more. There's no voting. Um, so yesterday, or the day before, I talked about this law, and I'm not going to drag you into it again today. Just know that this link will come up, specifically about what the federal government now has to do, and that will hopefully trickle down for IoT security. So look for that in the links later, and we can just move on. There's 40 people watching. There's like 6 people voting. Y'all need to get yourself a Discord account. I can't reach down that far. It's down there. It's down there. Come hang out with us. Uh, this show's kind of a recap of like supporting arguments for previous shows. Um, Recently I talked about when Amazon had the outage. This is also I talked about it yesterday. It was Cognito. I couldn't remember the name of the thing and how it knocked down people's home Roombas and stuff. So if you are building an IoT device or if you are building software related to an IoT device, please give your users a way to continue using the device if the internet is down, because the internet is not a public utility. It goes down. If you are buying IoT devices, don't buy anything that depends on the cloud for lots of reasons. So anyway, here's an article that talks about a company that had a pretty cool product for like medication that they just enabled Bluetooth access for it. So in the event that it couldn't reach out to the cloud, then it could also do its stuff locally. Oh my gosh, something just dinged at me. Um, okay, this is a little bit more interesting. Remember, Trufflebot takes all of the 15 items that are available for the day, and they range in priority or in probability from 75 to 100%. So rather than just giving me the straight list from like 5 coffees, 4 coffees, because then everybody would drop off halfway through the show, he shuffles them. So some of the stuff that we get is less interesting, but still a little bit interesting. This is from Loft and explains. It's the only article, or the first article I've seen that explains that multi-tenant clusters actually have a problem if you're using CRDs, because CRDs are cluster scoped resources, and you don't want to give people the ability to create their own stuff. So if you have a multi-tenant cluster, how do they do Helm chart installations? Really interesting analysis of that particular problem. We've had Loft on the show a bunch of times, and I love articles where they're like, here's a problem, here's lots of different solutions, and one of those solutions is ours. They even went one step further. A lot of times companies will present you with like 3 solutions, and they'll be like, super crappy solution, slightly less crappy solution, or solution. But Loft, they presented you with they present the reader with a number of solutions of equal value to their own. And theirs is somewhere in like, solution number 3 or 4. First one, the super crappy solution, don't use CRDs. I don't think that's really good advice because it's really hard to do anything with Kubernetes these days without something deploying a CRD. Consider separate clusters, good advice. Build on existing solutions, fluffy advice. But yeah, so if you're looking for the best of both worlds, consider virtual Kubernetes clusters to help you avoid the limitations of pure namespace-based multi-tenancy. I think Loft has a great product. It's totally worth looking into. We got one more before we get to the tool of the day. Today's tool of the day is it's pretty cool. Really? Okay. I debated not putting this on the show, but the only reason that I wouldn't put it on the show is because, well, because it's Red Hat, and that's not a good enough reason. What they've done is actually really cool. It's a component of their Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management, blah blah blah. That's actually, if you're not aware, I think like ACM is a resurrected IBM product that failed years ago, but they like rebranded it and made it work with OpenShift. Anyway, uh, if you are rolling out GitOps on an existing cluster, how do you get your existing stuff into GitOps? Like you can copy all the manifests and redeploy it, but what about stuff that's been deployed? Like there's a not 0% chance that something's going to get broke when you pull those manifests off and then stick them back in again. Um, they have a thing for ACM that can adopt existing resources. And so you point this at your application, you point this at your cluster, it goes in and figures out what the things are, it pulls them back, it puts them in the Git repo, so it's actually like doing the loading for you, and then this little checkbox goes green, and it says, I now control this. I think that's super cool if you're using OpenShift. And if you're not using OpenShift, hopefully somebody else will come up with an open source tool that does the same thing. Despite the fact that it's Red Hat and OpenShift, it's pretty cool. Okay, today's show, woohoo, had an average rating of 4 coffees. All right, that's cool. And now that takes us to today's tool of the day comes to us from Innobead, who we had on the show back in episode 29 with his Kubefire utility. Well, Innobead has come out with like super duper 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 alpha, super brand new, super kind of totally super tool that basically is it's a utility for command line applications related to development, cloud native, and Kubernetes and various other things where it pulls things directly from GitHub. So his example is apparently he really loves Rancher because he uses Rio in his example. It's got Rancher in there, it's got K3S, K3D, but it's got lots of other tools. You can install this after installing some basic dependencies, and let's just really quickly go and take a look at what it looks like. So if you're on Huber search, you get this huge output, which is kind of difficult to read. So if I just run that through awk, we can actually see that, remember, what it's looking to do is install command line utilities on your local system. Ali, Argo CD, Arcade, Bat, what else? dir-env, Fast CLI, Firecracker, Fission, Fleet, Flux2, the GitHub client, Helm, Huber itself, Ignite, K3 everything, K0S is in there, Kubefire, Lens, Minikube. Now, not all of these things, obviously, are going to work on every single platform, but it knows that. So, for example, K3S, I can't install that on Mac. It's going to work best on a Linux system for those of you who do development on Linux. But the idea here is let's say that I wanted to install K3S, and literally I go through this every time before I go and do my intro to Kubernetes and Rancher. I want to make sure that I'm running a mostly recent version of K3S. So how do I check it? I go to GitHub, I go to the releases page, I scroll past all of the release candidates and everything until I find something that looks like it might be current. Well, now over here, I can literally just say Hoover search K3S -- all, and it's going to pull back all of the K3S releases, and it'll tell me what's a pre-release and what's a current release. So I can see, oh, okay, the current one is 1.19.4, K3S2, so probably, I'll stick with like 1.19.3 just to stay a version behind. Now, even this, as cool as it is, isn't perfect. I opened an issue this morning because I was like, really? With Rancher? Oh, interesting. I got to go back and fix my issue. This is the Rancher CLI, not Rancher itself. So yeah, so Rancher CLI is actually only up through 2.4.9. I opened an issue and I was like, it doesn't support 2.5 because I'm an idiot. Because I don't think of Rancher's CLI. So this is Huber. and is just a super fast way to pull the latest version of whatever command line utility directly from GitHub. And that's it. That's all we got. Where do we go from here? We go to the subscribe thing. Subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in. Links to everything that I talk about go up on the links to everything I talk about on the show go up on the free community side after the show ends. Come join us. Community members get early access to the links, video replay, and other exclusive content. It's totally free to join, and there's people joining every day. If you have something you'd like me to consider for the show, post it in the community site, mention me in the post, or ping me on Discord or Twitter. Otherwise, have a great Thursday, everyone. Keep learning, and I will see you in the next show. Stay caffeinative.